I'm just waiting to start. Here it is. Ah, well, we're here. I'm not going to start it the way I normally start it because we're not normally starting at this time. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Does anyone know? Because I haven't got a clue.
I thought you knew. That's why we was here.
Yeah, I thought you knew. You're the one who instigated this thing, so it's up to you, Bucky.
No, I actually have no idea, but I am looking at chat, and it's already gone crazy, which is a little bit weird because you'd have thought people, particularly those in the States, would have a job to go to or something.
Don't go belittling. Wait a minute. Wait, stop. Don't go belittling the U.S. folks that are actually joining us today and being nice by saying, why don't you get a job? I mean, that's kind of freaking rude.
I'm not just going to belittle the Americans. They've got an entire globe to spread across it. We've got an hour or so.
Give them time. Yeah, Jamie will be here, guys. Yeah, Jamie's finishing up dinner and dabbing his corners of his mouth to clean up after his food. And then he said he'd be willing to join us because we're all willing to be blessed with his presence.
He's gracious like that.
Yeah, I think he's got to give the silverware a bit of a polish anyway. So. Doing his napkin rings and candlesticks and stuff like that.
Yes, make Brooklyn. I did make the switch. So yes, and I'm quite happy about it. Thank you. I'm out. And for those who didn't see in the chat, Make Brooklyn asked me if I made the switch to vape and quit smoking. The answer is yes, I did quit smoking. So yes, and save your accolades because I don't need them. It was for purely selfish reasons. I mean, let's be honest.
Also, I've just seen it in the and the money and all the other things. I've just seen Make Brooklyn in the chat. He says he's got a job. He's just slacking off. So yes, good skills. Stick it to the man. There's there are people here that we normally have kind of in the chat, but there's also people which I don't normally see in the chat, which is awesome. So
yeah, I think the time's got to be better for some of them. Like, because of us being later for the UK, maybe usually on a Sunday, and being a Sunday as well, I suppose most people use that for family time. They don't really want to be sitting down and listening to us.
Well, we barely want to be sitting down and listening to us most weeks, I think. So you got to feel sorry for everyone else. So, what are you guys actually up to? I mean, I said to you a couple of hours ago, do you fancy doing one of these pop-up podcasts? Because I literally was just bumming around not doing anything, and didn't actually have anything to say. Just thought it'd be a good idea.
Well, I've been painting. I started a big MDF sign. So I did like the carving over the weekend, which actually went a lot quicker than I thought it would do. Like a lot of texturing and stuff. Simple, like nothing too strenuous, but it's one of those when it's repetitive, you don't really like. I didn't have my mojo had gone. I didn't want to carry on with it, but I got it done. And I've started doing like the undercoats of white paint now, which should be done now anyway. It's kind of in my shed, still drying a little bit. But I put some old saws on Facebook to sell, like the Facebook marketplace, and I hate selling secondhand stuff. A chap was meant to come after 5 o'clock. That was what he said, and he's not turned up now. He hasn't seen my message to say like, what time are you going to be here, mate? So yeah, I've been stressing a bit.
My kind of sort of experience. I was going to ask you about the sign actually, but since you brought up Facebook Marketplace, and I don't know if anyone else had this problem before. You put something on there and you think, well, it's just, I don't really use it that often, but it's not really in the way I could probably. I don't really care if somebody has it or not, but I'll put it on for like, I don't know, for this much, and then within a second, someone goes, "I'll give you 10% of what you were asking."
Yeah, exactly. Somebody automatically says, "I'll give you half what you're asking."
I'll take it for nothing. And then after a week, they'll email you back going, "Are you still selling it?" And like, "Yeah, I am, but I'm not that bothered about it because it's a fair price and whatever." And then they go, "Will you post it?" Like you live around you literally live at the end of my road. Just come and get it. And then they go, "Oh, I'll be around at 6 o'clock," and then you send them a message at 4 o'clock and say, "Oh yeah, I'm still here. I'll be in. I'll make sure I'm in," and all the rest of it. Here's my number in case you're like running late. And then 8:10 comes along and they're still not rocked up. And then they message you 3 days later and go, "Oh mate, I'm really sorry, I forgot. Is it still available?" And at that point, I'm just like, no,
it's not. No, actually, I took it out back and burned it because.
What I don't like is it's simple on Facebook. There's a button where you can click that you're interested, and that sends the seller a message. So I've got like 12 messages on my phone, all just saying I'm interested, and it's like, And when you're waiting for somebody as well, that's the worst. If you're waiting for somebody coming and then you get offers from other people, and it's like, and now he hasn't turned up, so I could have sold it to somebody else.
Yeah, so no, I mean, personally, I mean, I kind of feel like if I'm selling something on Facebook, it's because I don't really care. I just want to get rid of it, and I'm doing someone a favor. And when somebody's messing me around like that, I'm just like, do you know what? I'll give it away to just the first person who rocks up, because I'm not that precious about it. But as soon as somebody starts messing you around and being like that whole I'm interested thing, it's like, it's completely useless.
Yeah.
It's like, if Joe said, "Oh, I'm selling this thing," and I went, "Oh, I'm interested," your instant reaction is, "Okay, yeah, you know, keep going." Like, I'd like to buy a car.
No, I put something on Facebook, the marketplace on Facebook, and you know what? It's my experience, anyways. It's no different than the Craigslist here in the States. I mean, you put something on Craigslist or Facebook, whatever the case, wherever place you want to put it, and it doesn't matter how you write the description, because I literally knew what it cost me to make this thing I was looking to get rid of. I had the exact dollar amount it cost me. And I just wanted it out of my shop, because I was done with it. I made it because I wanted to see if I could make it. It's fine. It's done. It's gone. All I'm asking for is the money that it cost me to make this, not my time, not my effort, nothing. So I listed it. Here's this. And I write the price down and I go, this price is firm, non-negotiable, because I just want to make my money back from what I have into it. But just like you, Richard, within 1 second, some guy hey, would you take, and then he offers me half of what I just said. Do you even friggin' comprehend the English language, my friend? I mean, because I did not, this was not a joke, and it's not a sales ploy. I'm dead serious. This is what it cost me. This is what I'll let it go for.
So don't get me wrong. Like, we all like a bit of a bargain, a bit of a haggle, you know, wheeler dealer and all the rest of it. If somebody says, well, if somebody says to me, like, you go to like a car boot or something, and you say, well, how much for this? And the guy says, £4. You go,
yeah,
okay, I'll give you 3. And they go, no, it's £4. And you go, okay, here's £4. Or, if £4's too much, like completely too much, I say, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. You've answered my question. But if you're going to do a bit of a haggle, then if it isn't going the way you want, then why haggle? Because
why haggle? Why haggle even more? It's like,
yeah.
Do me a favor, brother.
all it does is it kind of breeds this mentality of, I'll ask for £40, even though I only want 30, because I know you're going to come in and ask me for what I actually want for it. It's like, that's
basically what you have to do. You have to foresee what people are actually going to offer. So if you wanted like £100 for it in the end, you're going to have to put it on for 120, 130, and then make them feel like they've actually knocked you down to what they want.
Yeah, but I don't like to haggle, Richard. I'm not into that whole game. I don't care. I mean, I don't haggle with people when I'm trying to buy something, and I don't want to haggle with people when I'm trying to sell something. I'm just like, here's the bottom line price. It's like, and then when you say that and they ignore it, I just want to respond to them by going, tell me something. When you drive to the very end of a dead end road, do you still try to go a little further? I mean, hello. What kind of mentality tells you that I should do that? I was like, come on.
You know what? Funny said. First of all, hello everybody.
Hi, Jamie.
Secondly, it's funny you say that, Chris, but I went to a car boot sale not so long ago, and after sorting out the deals and getting all the bits and bobs that I wanted, somebody then tried proceeding to tell me I had to pay 5p for a carrier bag.
Oh God!
Are you serious?
You're obviously joking.
You are not a supermarket, my friend.
How many employees have you got in order to have to charge 5p for a car boot sale?
Wow! It's like I basically just bought half of your tool stock, and now you're telling me I've got to buy 5p for a carrier bag.
Got to keep it above board. I used to like it at the car boots. I mean, like, since we've really moved into the digital era and we've got like the high-speed internet and everything, before we'd go to the car boots and there'd always be the people selling the dodgy DVDs. And then they'd use fireworks to let each other know that the police was coming. So the fireworks would go up, they'd all scarper and just leave all these DVDs there, and everybody would just go up and pocket all the DVDs. I have been to a car boot for years.
There's kind of a sport to it. It's sort of fun. But you got. I just think you've got to kind of take it with a pinch of salt and a bit of,
I guess,
because like Chris says, it is a bit of a game. It's just some people take it, and then when you've gone, do you know what? Yes, I just want to get rid of it. You can offer me like £2, even though I was asking 200, because I just need to get rid of it. The space is more valuable. And then they message you 3 days after they said they were going. Oh mate, I'm really sorry, I forgot. Is it still there? Or you say to somebody. You can offer me what I'm asking because I've just sold it to a guy who has offered me less than I was asking, but he said he's coming around tonight. But if he doesn't come around tonight and it's still here tomorrow, then I'll contact you back. And that person that never showed up, and they go, 3 days later, I forgot, sorry. They get the right hump if you go, that's fine because I sold it to somebody else. They're always like, what? That's a legally binding verbal contract. And it's like, but it was mine. Did you buy it? And now you're giving me grief.
No, you broke the contract when you didn't show up when you said you were going to, so I had the contract over, pal. Oh my gosh. Hey, we got Soph out in the chat. And you guys want to shoot her a link? Soph, you want to join us? Hop in here and complain about things? Because apparently we're in a bitchy mood today.
We've also got Steve with Forza Tools out there, and I've just sold him to their podcast for £1. So Joe, you've got to edit their podcast as well now.
You're joking.
Well, hey, bring Steve in here too if he wants to join us. I don't care. I mean, join the bitch session because we're apparently in a bad mood today.
Well, I ain't editing this one anyway, so.
No, we're not editing this. This is going to come out the way it may come out with a PG advisory in the beginning of it. So whatever.
I think we're going to have
to. Joe has enough trouble editing on a regular schedule with me throwing spanners in.
So if this is going to have a parental advisory, does that mean I can save?
Well, I'm not going to edit it if you do. I mean, if Joe wants to, he can, but I'm not going to edit it.
Editing it. It'll stay. What happens here will be there forever.
Knock yourself out, Jamie. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is that one of us will end up taking the whole thing down, never to be seen again. I mean, how's that going to hurt?
Or the channel will just be gone.
What is everyone talking about in the chat?
I'll tell you something interesting. Recently,
currently in Costa Moonshine Metalworks, or Steve is currently at work.
I got a new toy. I've got. Here we go. Stuck. I got one of them cheapo laser engravers.
Ooh.
You mentioned that. One of the glue dries you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, the Neji one, yeah.
That's it. It's like £50 on eBay. And it's made from old Blu-ray drive burners. So, like,
you muted yourself there for a second there, Joe.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can now. It did cut out for me as well.
All right, sorry. Basically, it uses an old Blu-ray burner drive. And it even uses the carriage from it, I believe. So there's one on the bottom, one on the top. The laser on the top moves left to right, and the carriage moves forward and backwards. So it's like, that's how it actually works. But it's actually quite good. I've been messing about with a few little test cuts, engravings. It won't even focus now.
Looks pretty nice.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to do a little video on it, because obviously I got this using the money from Patreon supporters and stuff. And I brought some little bottle openers, and I wanted to etch the bottle openers, and I thought it would be able to etch through whatever coatings on these, but it won't. I seen a little tip where it said that you could put like black marker on to concentrate the laser beam, like, because black obviously makes it hotter or whatever. That didn't work. Well, I'd got some self-adhesive veneer, and I had a little play. I mean, it's rough as anything, but just sticking some veneer on the back. And I think that would actually look quite nice. So I'm going to try and refine it a little more and then get these sent out to people. But it's a nice little machine, for the money. It doesn't do a lot. It can do like less than 2 inch square, but it's something to play with, and it runs off one USB cable. No other pair of socks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, why not? Why not do a video for your Patreon supporters and also send them out that one a keychain? I mean, good for you.
Thank you.
I think I've actually got some software for the laser, and it uses the exact same laser. And when I get home, if I see if I can send it over to you, it might be able to make that laser just that little bit stronger.
Oh, great! So,
what size? I'm just because I'm interested now. You've piqued my interest. I'm looking at this on eBay, and there's two. There's a 1.5 watt and a 1 watt, or 1,000 and 1,500
I'll have to check my order which one it is.
That's a smaller one because I had the exact same one as that.
Well, you know what? Rob Appleman had a good idea, Joe. If you have the opportunity and you have the material, try it on a piece of leather.
Yeah, I've actually got a little piece here. I haven't tried it yet. I've tried it on cardboard.
That's a good idea, Rob. Because I mean, I bet you that would actually do a really nice job.
Tattoos.
You know what?
Yeah.
People getting new toys. Joe getting new toys. You know what upsets me about that is that I'm not getting any new toys. I want a new toy now because he has one. That's the only way I keep up with the Joneses. Is that when somebody gets a new toy, I'm like automatically, okay, I want a new toy. What am I going to get?
I can send you plenty of Makers International stickers if you like.
Well, that's not a toy, Jamie. I already have one of those.
Well, you can play with them if you want.
No, I don't.
Origami.
Pickup sticks. Poosh. Oh man.
Just to try and get this back on them for purely selfish reasons, because I'm interested in this little laser thing of yours, Joe. Those little bottle openers. Did you get like a bulk buy of those off somewhere?
I got them on Amazon. There was like how many was in the pack? I'm making all kinds of noise. We got a pack of 6 and it was £5.96. They're more like different colours.
But they're aluminium, aren't they?
Yeah, it wouldn't etch it out. I don't know if I'm doing it wrong.
But I'm guessing, purely guessing. There's I haven't got a laser, and I'm sure there's probably children that know more about them than I do. But I was thinking you could definitely X-carve those.
Yeah, I could do.
Yeah,
you could easily X-carve those.
I like the idea. Since having the X-carve, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic machine, and like having any kind of CNC, it's brilliant. But in a confined space like my shed, it's in a tip at the minute, and any extra mess that comes from milling, like actively milling material, you either create sawdust or metal shavings or whatever. It's got to be all cleaned up, and then to actively hold things down, it's really awkward, and the time it takes to get set up to cut like something for 30 seconds, it's just I can't be bothered. And that's why I was thinking with the laser, because it's literally you just sit it in place. You haven't got to hold it down or anything. There's no mess, like there's no dust, anything like that. You have got to be careful with fumes. So do as I say, don't do as I do. Like make sure it's ventilated and everything like that. But I've been doing like little cardboard and wood, and the amount of time that it's actually burning, whatever it is, I don't think there'd be any problems. I don't know. If I'm in hospital in a couple of weeks, you know why.
I think the like wood and cardboard and leather, I think the fumes would be fairly, probably not good for you, because there is such a thing, people do die of smoke inhalation. But I think that would be far less damaging at that level and quantity than if you were like lasering like zinc, for instance. So if you did something which was like zinc coated, that's really nasty fumes.
Well, I think even just striking a match, it'd create more of a fume, like because I think it's mostly nitrogen that comes off from wood when you burn that. But I don't know. It's fine. It is what it is.
Because you tried that on aluminium, right?
Yeah, I believe it's aluminium. It's got to be. Yeah.
What if you use the American version, the cheaper stuff, called aluminum? Would it work on that?
Try and invent something that doesn't even exist.
Well, you know what you could do it on? You could probably do it on like a Coke can or a soda can. It would probably laser the paint off of it.
Possibly. I did think maybe doing something along those lines, like just getting a rattle spray can, spray a coat of primer on it and etch through the primer maybe, but I don't know how well it would hold up.
Do you know what? I think Carol from KK Mate actually used his one of them to do glass.
I did see a few videos, and that's what I was trying, because there's no point in me getting it out. It's a whiteboard marker, so like a dry erase marker. I've seen somebody colour in a little shot glass with dry erase marker, put it in one of these lasers, and it etched it. So I don't know whether it's the software I'm using. I'll have to check out what Jamie's talking about, because the software, it's literally drag and drop a picture. You pick the size, pick how long you want it to go for, and that's it. That's the only controls you got.
Yeah, because the software that I've got, I completely forget what it's called, but you can pick out how fast it cuts, how strong it cuts, the power of the laser, all that sorts of stuff you can change.
I'll have to check
it's just fiddling around with it and the wood and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
But looking into the lasers, it's kind of eye-opening, because since watching like Chad on Minecrafting and stuff with his amazing laser and whatever, yeah, I looked into one of those and I'm in the thousands. And then I was looking at alternatives, and then you like literally see the ones that I'm like this, that £50, $60, that kind of area. But then the next step up is around the £300, $400 mark, which is a lot of money still. But I believe it's doable. It's like a table saw kind of thing. And those are CO2 lasers, 40 watt, 60 watt lasers, which I'm able to do quite a lot. I mean, I think the bed's about A4, like sheet of paper size, that you can do with them. So that might be something I could look in later down the line if I enjoy playing around with this.
Yeah, well, Laura's that we had on Sunday, what was the company she worked with?
Smoke and Mirrors.
Smoke and Mirrors. Something like that. I mean, I did exactly the same as you, Joe. I basically Googled laser cutter engraver machine suppliers in the UK, and there was about 4, and they're about $7,500 starting price. It's like I could buy a house around here for that much money. That's ridiculous. But it's not. You get what you pay for, but it's not where I need to be with the prices. But I think something step down. You're sort of into the realms of, that's not real woodworking, by the way, but it's accessible for lots of people.
It is, yeah. I think anything underneath that £1,000 mark can become accessible to enthusiast hobbyists, because it's an achievable sum to save over years. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
What's that one that the likes of David Picciuto uses? It basically supply their own materials using it. It comes with like a barcode on it, and the machine actually reads the barcode automatically. It knows what's in the machine and cuts it all before itself, and it knows where it's previously been cut and all that sort of stuff.
That'd be why my Wi-Fi's being a bit dodgy. give me a second.
No, I forget what the brand is. What David Picciuto's got, but they're like kind of a closed system. I believe Dremel is coming out with a laser engraver, very similar to what David Picciuto uses.
They've got is it 3D printer they've got at the moment?
Yeah, they've got 3D printer as well. But yeah, I mean, I like the open source nature of the cheaper ones.
Glowforge, yes.
They're not very. Yeah, that's it. Glowforge, that's the one.
Yeah, Andy Pugh just remembered it. Yeah,
because there's what's the Full Spectrum? There's a company that I think Jimmy had used one in one of his videos, in his glass Perspex Cube video he did the other day.
Oh, I haven't watched that one yet.
I've not watched it yet.
But the point was, Joe, that it becomes accessible for people, but also with those tiny little ones, it's then not only is it really accessible to loads of people, but if you can work out a way that what you're doing is cool, the size almost becomes irrelevant.
That's it, and it can always be adaptive.
try.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
if only anyone thought that.
Sounded better in my head, but you know what I mean. If you can,
said no woman ever.
Me, mate. Yeah, that was unintentional. But no, the point was,
that'd be the intro for SoundCloud. That one.
You said it's got like a 2-inch square bed.
Yeah.
Stop it! Stop it! If you could like work it really well so that you could make it big. I've just given up now. You see what I mean? If you could like turn it into a larger project.
You've actually just given me an idea, though. Imagine doing a series where, like, I brought this £50. Could I make things using that to sell to get the money to buy the £300 one?
Yeah. Did you ever watch the £1 Million House Experiment?
No, I haven't seen that.
Right, there was a series in it would. I was living in Bristol, so it would have been about the turn of the century. I think it was about 2001, 2002 time. But the BBC did a series called the £1 Million House Experiment. So they stumped up £100,000 for a builder and a couple of interior designers to go off and buy a house for £100,000, and they had to do it up and sell it on within that £100,000 budget, including all the fees and solicitor stuff and all the rest of it. And they did. So they bought like an £80,000 house and sold it for 98 or something. And then they bought a house for a bit more that went up. And the last house in the series was a house that they bought with £1 million budget, and they sold it for like 1.2. So you could literally do that. You could get like, and what's the name of that car wheeler dealer guy?
Mike, is it Mike in it?
Mike Brewer.
That's it. Yeah.
Wheeler did. He did exactly the same thing with cars. He went down like his mate's showroom and bought a Part X for £300, and then traded it up each time, washed it, did it up, new brakes, sold it on, and then they ended up buying like a brand new Fiesta or something about that sort of size, about £8,000 worth of car, and they raffled it off to the viewers. So you could literally do the exact same thing.
Or something a bit closer to home, Izzy Swan's $50 wood shop.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Joe
much so.
Whittaker's £50 laser gig.
Yeah. It could be like a challenge, you know. It could be literally, this has cost me £50 and do like all the graphics. So my outlay at the moment is £50. I'm going to be using these materials, which is this much. I'm going to sell them for this much, and do regular updates with project ideas, and yeah. Maybe.
Fiery laser. I'm liking it. Oh, you heard it here first. Don't go copying it.
Exclusive.
Yeah. So that's why we do these crazy things.
Watching you lot.
Mulling over ideas.
It'll be announced tomorrow now. Watch.
Yeah. On somebody else's channel.
Yeah. Bearded.
But you know, there's people in the chat, like Paul Wilmore's in the chat, and he's got a laser because he'd made those coasters with our logos on, didn't he? Which were awesome. And
that's fantastic.
I don't know what laser that is, but that's not one of your ones, because like my coasters are like at least 4 inches square. I think you said that was the max of it. So, and
yeah,
actually, once you've got that £50 laser, you could make that any size you want now, because what have you got? You've got the stepper motors and the laser thing and the software. You just need to build a bigger frame for it.
I think these ones make it kind of more awkward because it literally still uses, I don't know if you can see in the back, that is literally from the disk drive itself. So you're limited to the run of this. That's the entire unit kind of thing. It's not like a regular stepper motor arrangement where you just increase the rails. But you could literally take the diode off, and I could literally whack that on the side of my X-Carve.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Just throw it out the window and then go downstairs, pick up the laser unit, that's probably all that will be left, and just bolt it to your X-Carve, and you've got like a massive laser.
See, I think you just need a lot more like user input to choose the level of the laser, because then it'd be controlled separately. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, because
Steve, very uncool to promote your podcast and try to get a fundraiser going while we're actually doing our own podcast.
Yes, you do.
roll up. Get your Balls and Tools laser engraved merch. Help us buy a bigger laser.
Oh, bloody hell.
Somebody failed tact class.
I'm just going to go and ring human resources at Steve's company and let them know that he's skiving off. Okay, right, we're going to go and check Steve's desk.
I may have to add, because I have a list of burning YouTube personality questions here in front of me that I will be happy to give you guys a little bit later on. But I may have to go back and rethink the Fools with Tools, because I'm sure we can probably find a burning YouTube personality question there. So yeah, let me know when you want me to get into this, boys. I'll get into it.
That was a really good segue from laser engraving to burning.
Yeah.
Thank you. I used to do this professionally.
20 years on the radio.
Oh my God. Yeah, and absolutely none of it is showing through. Nor has it ever. At least not on YouTube.
What's the name of that laser, Joe? Is it Neji?
It's Neje.
So yeah, if you're in the chat or you're listening, just go to eBay and type in Neje, and it will come up with. I did exactly the same thing, and it came up with quite a few varying prices. You've got mine.
So what? I'll try and find the link to the exact one I brought, because at least I know that it's been delivered.
Well, I know at least one guy who won't steal that idea. And that's James Wright.
Yeah.
One of the burning YouTube questions I had was, do you think James Wright actually owns an electric razor? Yeah, I think he does. He does hand tools, but I think he has an electric razor. I really do. I
noticed that he's got electric lighting as well.
Yeah,
there was a joke going around one day because he's obviously a hand tools guy. Someone actually pointed out a hand drill on one of his videos and screenshot it to him.
What's that?
He actually used to be a power tool guy, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did. A
while ago, yeah.
I think he did, but he's building his rep on being a hand tool only guy, which is why the whole electric razor thing was, okay. Anyway.
I mean, that's kind of a good point. I mean, I don't care either way. If people want to move metal or bash wood or use electricity or not, or lasers and computers or not, that's entirely up to them. The material and the method, to me, is irrelevant. It's all about the way your brain interacts with your hands to produce a physical thing at the end. That's what does it for me. But it does get me when people talk about that. They make this sort of kind of, if you watch any of those YouTube channels about how to make a YouTube channel, they all talk about at some point in depth about finding your niche or your niche, and exploiting that area and really kind of building up your authority in a particular
it's called focusing on a single direction.
Exactly. But I think sometimes people just take that a little bit too far,
a little overboard, perhaps, in some cases.
I mean, if I guess, but the flip side of that is it could be misinterpreted, because like with Jamie and I, Scroll Saw Router, like we're always having banter between the two of us. But if you actually talked to either myself or Jamie in the flesh independently, I don't like using the scroll saw myself, but I have done, and I do, and I'm sure Jamie's the same with the router. It kind of doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
I tell you honestly, I don't know how to use a router properly. Well, I'll be the first to admit it.
Well, we'll kind of fix that in a few weeks anyway. But the kind of the point that I'm sort of half remembered, and that is kind of is a light fade.
No, Richard, I hear what you're saying, because I mean, most of the work that I do in my videos and in my shop, I do it with tools, power tools that the normal garage guy of today would have at his disposal. But I also happen to have hand planes and chisels and things of that nature that I don't happen to use on camera. But to say that I never use them would be an out-and-out lie, because I absolutely do use a hand plane, a block plane. I use chisels all the time when I'm doing things that I'm not making for YouTube. It's just that's not part of my deal. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's like you don't necessarily use a scroll saw all the time, but you happen to own one and you have used one in the past. So, well, okay, you gave yours away. So make it Soph once again. Soph, you're welcome. Steve Richard. But you have used one in the past, and so you do appreciate the uses for the tool. You just don't happen to use it that often. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there are people out there who genuinely really kind of tenaciously hold on to these kind of values, for want of a better expression, whereby, you know, if you get into technology, God forbid you decide to use some computer controlled spindle or laser or whatever, then, you know, you're not keeping up with the times, you're not embracing technological changes, you are shunning your past and your heritage in the making of whatever medium. Do you know what I mean? There are people that I think really hold on to that. And what I was going to say, I was going to kind of flip it on the blacksmiths because of Steve basically being horrible about our podcast and promoting his. But, you know, blacksmiths are kind of the sort of they're sort of seen as like the original maker, aren't they? Because if you were the village blacksmith, you could make everyone else's tools. Well,
until the carpenter had to build your shed that you worked in before you even started working. Yeah, but so
yeah, I
mean, I would dispute that assessment. But
yeah, I mean, I guess before, I mean, okay, chicken and egg syndrome, sort of, but you know,
exactly. Hello, yeah, and because without nails, the carpenter couldn't have done it. So which one came first, right? Yeah, exactly.
But then, so that you get these sort of blacksmiths that are holding on to this. You know, we are the kind of the origin of making because we made everyone's tools and we repaired tools.
Yeah,
and all the rest of it. But then you introduce the power hammer.
Yeah,
but I need to stop everyone there. But Jesus was a carpenter.
But
he created everything.
Yeah. No.
I think,
but in the whole
Bronze Age was before Christianity, and I think bronze is a metal that they use. So I'd probably.
And I think.
I don't know.
And I think that, and I think the stonecutters of Egypt built the pyramids before then too. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. And let me look. Oh no!
The stonecutters was in The Simpsons, wasn't it?
I'm actually not wrong.
But it was for me. It was kind of about the mentality of the technological advancements, because you know, blacksmith was the dude in the village. You know, if he didn't like the whoever,
we're getting into that pompous competition that you were talking about earlier.
that kind of that's kind of what it's. I think does happen.
Exactly.
Then you introduce the power, because you know, blacksmithing takes time. It takes effort. It takes, you know, if something takes time, a long time, you can't amass a fortune by doing it. So what happened in blacksmithing? You know, the power hammer comes along, and all of a sudden it can speed things up. So things can be done more quickly. Things can be done more streamlined. And I think that's what's happened with the whole sort of computer, laser, CNC, engraving side of it. It's just a
it's very easy to get typecast into different roles by potentially your audience and also your customers. Like from a non-YouTube point of view, if you want to get into woodworking and your first project is a cutting board, and your family or friends buy that off you, and then somebody else asks for another cutting board and another one, you're stuck making cutting boards. You don't get a chance to do anything else. So you could literally be in a similar position. You wanted to give blacksmithing a go. It turns into something profitable, and now that's your career, and that's the road that you're heading down. And people, it's very easy to get on that one lane and coast it all the way, and especially when there's money involved. When it's something that you need to be doing, that's when people get stuck. And that's when I can imagine a lot of people look at other crafts with envy, and also look at other crafts with maybe looking down your noses a little bit. Everybody thinks I'm the best. Everyone thinks what I'm into is the best thing to be into. My hobby's better than your hobby, kind of thing. But we all know.
Well, actually, and I don't know about everybody, Joe, because I happen to know mine is shit. So it's like, it's like maybe it just is a perspective. And sorry if I swore. I apologize, everybody. That I know that mine is dung. Does that make up for it? Probably not. Anyway, you know, it's like, yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize, but I mean, we're not going to edit this anyway. Who cares? Frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a gosh darn bit. If that makes it a little more G-rated for you. Oh, next burning YouTube question: is a candlelight dinner in the cards for the Al Sack Shack? I'm doubting it. Hey, I'm just trying to put content out here, guys. You guys are like taking this way too serious. All right, question number 2: will Joe's glue ever friggin' dry?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No. I'll tell you what did dry. It dried good and proper. I was going to use white undercoat paint on the MDF. I got the tin and it's like literally cheese now. And so white paint cheese.
If he ever leaves it alone, it might.
Presumably it's water based.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally just put like a tiny bit of water in the top and give it a good stir up, and it'll probably
it's literally it's like it comes out in one go. It's
okay.
fine. I got another tin. It was just one of those where I cracked it open, thinking I'll just dip the brush in. No, it's solid.
Yeah, Steve Moonshine Metalworks, he said there's a lot of guys in blacksmithing that are horrified if you use, welders, power hammers, and grinders and all the rest of it. So, yeah, that was a bit tongue in cheek, Steve, and I totally get that would be the case in metal or in wood, or there's probably in various mediums like knitting, if you use a knitting machine rather than sewing swords. I'm sure there's exactly the same thing.
Richard, I think what the whole point of what you're trying to get to about this whole conversation, without us getting too serious, and because obviously I'm not going to get serious about this today, is that if there's a problem with anything, there's like people have a problem with having a tolerance of saying to each their own. I mean, it's like this whole my way or the highway kind of attitude about, the way I do things is the proper way and the way you is just shut up. It's like, find a little tolerance. If that's what they want to do and that's what makes them happy, then who the hell are you to judge? It's the lack of that tolerance that seems to be persistent. And I'm going to point this out. The people we're talking to are basically the vocal minority, and that needs to be recognized. They are not the majority. They are the vocal minority. They just have large mouths, and so therefore they're heard. So it's like, don't pay them too much attention, is all I'm trying to say. It's like,
it's that old, when you see something you don't like on Facebook, you just scroll past.
Yeah, it's like you scroll past.
You don't have to say I disagree. All you have to do is just scroll by.
You can just look at. I do that all the time. I look at things and I just kind of go, and I shake my head and I just look at it and go, am I going to try to enlighten this person on a social media platform? No. Because you know what? It's going to do zero good, and then it's going to end up in an argument. And I've been down this road before, and it's just not going to happen. Anyway, hey, look, it's Mark Christopher. That's my travel companion to the UK.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Hey, Chris.
That's Chris and Jamie and Joe and Richard.
And what's his face? Yeah.
And the other guy. How the bird box coming on?
Chris Gale is saying, miss you.
Oh, miss you too, hon. I had fun. I stayed at Mark and Gail's house when I was in Canada. They were nice enough to put me up and actually let me live amongst them for a period of time.
Live amongst the Canadians.
Would you do it again?
From what I've been reading in the press, Mark, our two countries are about ready to go to war. So
yeah, there actually, believe it or not, there was an article in the New Yorker. It was a satirical piece, obviously. But Kim Jong-un has said that he's willing to host peace negotiations between Trudeau and Trump. So he thinks this is a dangerous situation where maple syrup could be spilled everywhere. Nobody wants that.
Then Pat Lack there with his tongue.
Well, that and poutine.
No, I was talking to the guys earlier before we went on the air, and I said that this could become a topic about how the U.S. and Canada are going to go to war with each other. And I said, you know what? I'm secretly rooting for Canada to win this one.
We don't come burn down your White House again.
Well, yeah, don't make us come down and burn down the White House again.
Well, I mean, I just think that what might and guys, I'm not going to get political on this, but I mean, the one thing that I always just found funny was like, if Canada kicks our ass, then the whole Trump making America great again thing might just go away in a hurry. So I'm just like,
really?
Come on
I think
down.
it's about time we start taking back the colonies. I don't know about anything else.
Yeah.
Sort it all out.
Start straightening them all out. So like, wait,
Canada.
naughty step.
So I was actually sitting on the toilet when I came across this pop-up podcast, and then Chris asked me if I wanted to join, and I was like, Yeah, sure. What you
Let me
mean?
want.
This train wreck of a podcast? Absolutely, I'm in.
Well, I'm glad you decided to get off of the toilet first.
Yes, I'm not like Pat Lapp.
because Pat wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, you guys have. I don't know if you. I think a couple of you might have seen that Gail has got us into the birdhouse making and fairy house making business here in the last few days. And can I show them this one you're working on right now? It's coming together. It's got nicer shingles on it than my roof, actually. This one has cedar shingles. Hang on now. Let me swing the camera around here.
It's not done.
It's not done yet, mind you, but it's a work in progress.
Oh look, there's Chris.
Oh wow,
That's pretty cool.
Very
I saw that
nice.
when it was white, but you've done a much better paint job on that.
Oh, that's awesome. I
it's
love it.
amazing.
That's
So
very
the
cool.
paint,
It's got a real Tim Burton feel to it.
Doesn't it
that's
though?
great.
No, more to the side, Gail, so I can see the shingles and stuff. Yeah. So they're actually cedar shims.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I cut out a few things there on the front there, the door and the window, the moon, and the little pink thingy there on the scroll saw there for her so she could put on. But it's not finished yet. But this is apparently.
I think
Is
we've
he
lost
frozen?
him.
I think it's frozen on him, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's frozen.
Seems like
That
it.
looks amazing. How that does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, looks really good.
Is that hand painted or is that like airbrushed?
Do you know, yeah, that's what I was just thinking. It looks, I don't know if it's spray paint or airbrushed.
No,
I think
that's
He's back. Oh,
I believe it's probably a mixture of both. But I mean, Gail's pretty talented when it comes to painting, so I don't know. It's tough to tell.
Yeah, I think I saw it on might have been Facebook or it could have been Instagram when it was just the white undercoat. I wasn't expecting to have such an elaborate paint job on there. Chris, what have you done? You've broken the internet.
I haven't done anything.
This is it. This is like the start of the war. The first thing they're doing, they're taking down infrastructure.
yeah. Apparently, Paul Lockwood says America has just cut the Canadian internet lines. The internet line.
See what you're all going to do when all your CNCs don't work anymore, and you'll all be running to James right now.
all the Canadian CNCs are going to start writing out personal messages on their own.
Yeah. Just Trump signatures.
all their little lasers.
It's nice to laugh at some of the other countries for a change, rather than looking at the problems we've got closer to home.
Yeah,
It's always better to laugh at someone else and forget your own issues.
It's like you can have a good laugh. I watch all like the late night show clips on YouTube, and then I'll put the nose on here, and it's like, oh, shouldn't really be laughing that much.
Do you know what? I literally had to when Chris was talking about the whole US Canada thing. I was like, what? And he just went G7 news, and I literally had to Google it because I haven't watched the news in so long. Seriously, because it's just so depressing. You just like put on Look East and you walk out like with a toaster. I'm just going for a bath. It's just so depressing.
I quit.
It's horrid.
Honestly, and Richard, it's amazing that I'm even aware of that. But if it wasn't, making the headlines about Canada and the U.S., and if it wasn't that absolutely absurd that America would have an issue with its closest friggin' ally in the world, it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, Canada is like, I could be in Canada in 2.5 hours. It's like, I really don't want to piss them off, and I'm sure they probably don't want us to get pissed at them. So come on.
Don't get saying too much anyway, because I'm trying to catch up on the news. I've like started the box set, so I'm trying to catch up on no spoilers. I'm in like 1986, I think, at the moment.
Oh, next YouTube burning question. Does Mark Spagnuolo secretly use spray lacquer from a can? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And don't ask me where these are coming from, guys. These are notes I've had for eons, and I'm just kind of bringing up now to fill in.
I think this is more of like an insight into Chris's inner mind, rather than the questions themselves.
What did Izzy Swan's sexual therapist have to say about him being so drill-powered possessed? I have no idea what that means. So we're going to throw that away. Wouldn't it be better if you guys did this show at 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturday nights? Yes, it would. We'll leave it at that.
Well, kind of sticking with that point, just a thing. I can't even remember if we talked about this at the start of the show, but Joe, you mentioned was it your last While the Glue Dries, or maybe the one before that, about
the last one.
Mixing up the timings because it's better for different parts of the world. And like we kind of always says we didn't want to be specifically about a particular region or area. That's why we chose the name we did. And the only reason we air when we air, and I say that because at 9 o'clock, is because that's the time that we can all get together regularly, planning wise, because the time zone changes and all this. But if we can randomly do things like this, then it will be more beneficial for, the Pacific Rim or Asia or Eastern Europe or Western the US or whatever, those penguins down in the Falklands or whatever it might be. So
beneficial in the loosest meaning of the word.
Yeah, and actually, we do the show. So if we're not here, there isn't a show. So it kind of has to be when we can do it, not when other people.
Well, wait a minute, Jamie, you're not really actually agreeing with that, are you?
I'm just sitting here nodding my head.
It's got music on it. Listen to us.
All right. So Jamie, they're just daring us.
Jingle bells.
They're just daring you and I to do a show and not invite them, is what we're hearing right now. It's like, okay.
Well, whatever happens, I'm going to turn up. I'm 100%. So.
Yeah, Jamie has 100% attendance. So there you go. You know what? So, what we ought to do, guys, is secretly, without telling Jamie, is do one of these pop-up podcasts at at some obscure hour and just never tell Jamie that we're doing it, so that we can ruin his attendance.
He'd find his way inside.
I'm turning my chat back on then.
He would. We'd be there, and it'd be like 10 minutes past, and then he'd just jump in. It's like, how'd you get the link? So I've got a 6th sense for Hangouts.
Yeah.
Well, I have a personality profile written and done here. If anybody wants to go through and do a written personality profile in 4 questions, if not, then we can save that for a later show too. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just trying to fill time. You wanted to? You okay? And Jim, I'll forewarn you though. There's no way you're coming out of this looking good. All right. This is just
there's no way I'm going into it or coming out of it looking good.
But your answers and the results of your answers are not a reflection of who you currently are. It's a reflection of who you would be should you choose these answers. Okay. Does that make sense?
Okay.
All right. First question. And you can only pick one in each one of these categories, and that's it. So you'd have to stick with one, and that's just who you are. All right. You can only pick one, and it's if it's the only meal that you're going to have for the rest of your lifetime, which meal is it going to be? And I'll give you the translation as soon as you answer the question. Would it be A, pizza, B, tacos, C, fried chicken, or D, spaghetti and meatballs?
Pizza, because I had some really nice pizza yesterday.
Okay.
It's homemade.
All right. Well, you're starting out as a fat pig. Okay, here we go.
That's correct so far.
You can only pick one. It's the only thing other than water, obviously, that you can drink for the rest of your life. Which one of these do you pick? Coffee, tea, beer, wine, or whiskey?
Coffee.
Okay, you're a fat neurotic pig. Where would you live? On a beach, on an isolated cabin in the woods, in a suburban home with neighbors, or in a big city?
Isolated cabin in the woods.
All right, so you're
antisocial. You're
a fat neurotic pig with an animal fetish. Okay. Now, how will you live? Will you live in a communal space with lots of people sharing it? Would you live with a friend? Would you live with a significant other and maybe some kids? Or would you live all by yourself?
Probably communal.
Okay, so you're a fat, neurotic pig with an animal fetish that would whore himself around town. That's
spot on.
I didn't. These are written down, guys. I did not make that up. So there you go, Jamie. And this and the I guess the final, pick a number between 1 and 10.
5.
All right. These you have two. There's two choices here. One is above 5 and one is below 5. And if you pick 5, that rounds you up. And so that means that if you implement these changes immediately, you should shoot yourself because it's not an improvement over who you currently are or who you currently will be. Does anybody else want to take this little personality quiz, or should I just go ahead and throw that away?
I've got a quick shout out before we move on, and that is to Soph. Make it Soph, because in the chat, she pointed out that Jamie was actually late to this podcast, and therefore his average drops to 99% attendance.
And what about the one when he was in the car?
It goes to lower. Yeah, it's lower than that because of the one when I was in the car. I only turned up for about 2 seconds, which is the Rob Apple one. If I'm correct, I was stopping to say boxes or briefs.
But 2 seconds inside is often all that you need.
Yeah.
Said no woman ever. Wow.
It's like, what's that one about?
At least not to me, Joe. I mean, I don't want to ignore your talents, but has never been said to me. Let's put it that way.
It's like, I think when people talk about their spirit animal, I think mine's like the giant panda. Eats, shoots, and leaves. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
They'll all be using that one now. You watch.
For those of you who were offended, Joe at least said you're welcome.
That's Joe's ideal woman, isn't it? What do you see in a Joe, or what do you look for in a woman, Joe? Low standards.
Low expectations.
That's
Dear, oh dear.
This is what happens when you get me drinking beer at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the U.S. Jesus. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Having a nice bit of golden shower, are you?
No, this is not golden shower, Jamie. This is. And for those of you who don't know, I made the mistake of actually having a beer that had a label on it the beer was called Golden Shower, and I thought it was funny. And Jamie has yet to let me forget that I was drinking Golden Shower beer. And yeah, you take the rest of the comments, and that's exactly where that conversation went. But we're not going to have it today.
I believe the Russians actually have footage of it as well, that them threatening to release of Chris drinking Golden Shower.
Yeah. I'm just looking forward to the war with Canada, because this ought to be the most friendly war in the world. The U.S. will throw a rock and Canada will go, "Oh, we're sorry. Here it is back."
Have another go. You missed.
Yeah. Here it is back with some syrup on it.
We'll pay for the shipping.
Next time, shoot it at us without insurance. You won't get charged.
Oh my God! All right. Well, you guys have blown through all the nonsense I had. So,
how long have we been on for?
An hour.
It's 8:05, so probably about an hour.
Like my senses.
Just it's got this implants. That's what it is. Just looking through the chat, see if there's any questions or anything coming in. Everyone's just having a giggle by the looks of it.
Since Canada's like half French, I wonder if that's where they would start the production of the white flags in Quebec.
I don't know. Canada is a bilingual country, so you're right. If Canada is, Canada has an instant ally with France, so yeah, the U.S. is already getting double teamed. We're screwed.
There you go. Maybe Red Smith can help them.
We'll get maple syrup and crepes being thrown at us.
So I just said that because Red Smith said, "Would you us to start production of the white flags?"
Well, I tell you what, we can mass produce them, then sell them to you, as long as you don't put a tariff on it.
Oh dear.
It's kind of amusing that these things kick off, and it's basically just
It's stupidity.
It's like it's playground stuff.
It's to numb you. That's what it's for. It's to give people something to talk about, so you don't concentrate on the big stuff that's going down.
Yeah, exactly.
It's we're going to put some money on the steel. Everybody panic. Meanwhile, we're just selling these other things here.
I don't trust that Kim Jong Un bloke.
He's all right. I think he's all right.
I think he's signing all these peace treaty things, and he's got about 50 odd bloody rockets halfway around the world.
I think poor upbringing. He's all right. He's a bit of a ruffian, but he'll get better, I'm sure.
Is Ken Haley? Are you still out in the chat? If you are, I've just seen your question. If you are out there, say you're out there, and I'll answer your question. It's about router tables. Something.
Is it F. Taylor? So where do the draft dodgers go? I don't know that baseball team.
Well, he's referring to a reference when the Vietnam War broke out. A lot of U.S. citizens that were being called for the draft said, "I'm not fighting that war," and they went to Canada. If Canada went to war with the U.S., I'm betting most of the draft dodgers would head to Cuba because there's no extradition in Cuba to the U.S. They're going to be on rubber rafts leaving from Miami, headed south.
Gotcha.
They'll be in the homemade submarines. Have you seen like what the narcos used to use?
I was going to say that the drug lords will be running running the other way.
That's it.
We've just created an import business.
They've got to go back and get all the stock. Everybody's back home now.
I talk about that. That's the way to make the business work more efficiently, isn't it? It's like you have to bring back loaded ships, as well as like we did in the 1700s. We take tobacco out and bring slaves back, and make sure the ships are full in both journeys, so you can take all the drugs over to Miami and bring back all the fugitives and keep it going. It would work.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you find it ironic that every time there's an economic crisis around the world, all of a sudden a war breaks out? Do you suppose that is coincidence?
Why though? Because wars are supposed to be expensive.
But wars are the best thing that can happen to a country as far as boosting its economy, which is why a lot of these things.
That's what I don't get right. Wars are expensive, yeah. So if there's an economic crisis, it means you haven't got any money. So that's like going out and getting rat-assed at the end of the month when you haven't got any money left.
It's a short. That just underlines how stupid it is, because people die. It temporarily inflates the value of your money, but then when the war is over and things get back to normal, then the overinflation is where we find ourselves today. Where this, you got a dollar that's actually worth 50 cents as opposed to being worth $1, because we used to be on the gold standard. You remember do you remember back in the day when when countries actually based their money on the amount of gold they had in their? Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. There's a reason it doesn't happen anymore, because nobody can do that anymore.
Didn't Fort Knox like open its doors to the press one day?
Yeah,
we've got loads of gold and we'll prove it. So you can all come over to Fort Knox and see it for yourself. But you're only allowed to look into one vault.
One vault.
Yeah. It's like the Queen's vault at the Bank of England. She's like I think she's still the individual largest owner of gold repository in the world. Yeah. But wars actually bring in a lot more to the economy, because you cut off exports, you cut off imports. When you're at war, all of your GDP literally goes back into your own country. You're manufacturing at home, everything like that. But then, like Chris said, that's only while you're at war. As soon as the borders open again and you start trading, it's all worthless.
But again, that really didn't work for us in 1939, 1940, because
no, it didn't.
We're a tiny little island, and I think we only paid for or finished paying for the stuff that America lent us in about 1990.
No, well, yeah, exactly. But let's be honest. I mean, England wasn't the one who jumped headfirst into that war. You were kind of forced into it.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't. We didn't start it.
You were not doing it to boost your own economy. You were kind of forced into that situation. Yeah.
Admittedly, we don't have the best track record when it comes to the imperialistic side of life, but that one wasn't us.
There's probably a reason for that. Yeah, exactly. But
yeah. So anyway,
says Australia, Canada, the United States, and
so Ken Healy over in the chat.
India.
He asked
Egypt.
me, I'm trying to be serious and put out some
Hong Kong.
useful information to people. Yes, like most of the world, right?
Yeah. Well, there was a time when the sun actually literally did not set on the British Empire.
Yeah.
But that was many moons ago, and that was bound to end at some point in time. So yeah, sorry guys, but that happens.
We were quite efficient at it because look at India. We basically ruled like however many million people with about 4 blokes and a bicycle for a long time. Okay, so that's pretty. That gives even some of our European counterparts a run for their money on the efficiency.
Well, I'd be kind of proud about that. It's like in a weird kind of sadistic way, that would kind of go, we did that. So you bet you can't say that. It's like, you know what? You're right. I can't. We ruled India with 4 blokes and a bicycle for I don't know how many years. It's like, wow, people from India going, you know what? They freaking did, and that really sucks. That's going to be quickly forgotten in our history.
Or 118 dear, as it is now.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody, where was it? I've lost it now. Completely in the chat. I'm totally lost now.
Was it about router tables? I think he said.
Yeah. So it was Ken. But Ken's asking about the trend router table, which is very similar to the Craig router table. I think it is for like Chris and people over in the States. It's that white laminated table with the flared pressed steel legs and all this stuff. So I can't comment on the Craig one exactly, but it is very similar. I don't know what you get in the box, but for the trend one, personally, I think it's awesome. It is the one I've got. And the reason I got that as opposed to making one was because what comes in the box for the money, I couldn't make a router table for that money because you get all the feather boards, you get the mitre gauge, you get an aluminium plate, and basically all the stuff. So
and the T-track.
And the T-track as well, which runs to full length. It's a reasonably good sized table. So yeah, for that money, you get a lot for your money. So it is a good value table. I modified mine, but it wasn't my idea. I got the idea from Ollie Parry Jones, who got the idea from somebody else, who probably got it from someone else who got it from that guy in the Iron Age eventually. But just outfeed side of the aperture and I'd recommend this actually to any router table user for when you're cutting housing joints or trenches and slots or dados or whatever. I drilled a hole. It's about 1.25 inches diameter, about 4 inches outfeed of the router aperture in line with the center of the spindle. So if you're cutting a closed slot, normally the dust all shoots out of the trench and just makes it just like a sawdust gun that just blasts it across the workshop. So it literally has to pass over this hole, which is a connector for another extractor, and I just connect the shop hose to that. So once it goes over, until the timber gets to that point, it shoots across it, you get a little bit come out, and then it cleans it all up. But once the wood passes over that hole, it literally is just sucking it straight out of the hole, and there's zero mess, which is I don't know why everyone doesn't do that, because it really is a good mod. So yeah, it's an awesome router table, but they've brought out a new one now, which they call the workshop router table, which is even bigger. It's basically the same on a larger scale. So yeah, it's good. It's good value.
There's a lot of deals like that out there. And I'll be honest with you, I bought and I went cheap out because I was looking for a drill press table, and I went and I looked on Harp because I think it was Nick Ferry that turned me onto it. He goes, go look at the Harbor Freight drill press table that they have for sale. And I went, okay, I'll have a look. And I looked at it and I went, well, that's MDF, T-track, some knobs and things of that nature. But it was like $25, $30 for that drill press table. And I said, well, you know what? I could probably make one my own and probably make it better. And then I went to go price out the knobs and the T-track, and it would cost me more to make my own than it would have to buy that. And so what I basically just said is like, you know what? I'll buy this piece of, And if it ever fails on me, I'll just pull all the hardware off of it and I'll make my own and still be better at the end of the day. Because he was absolutely right. It was cheaper to buy that whole thing assembled than it would be for me to make my own.
There is a lot of instances like that, definitely.
I know people that have bought those kind of things because it was cheaper to get the thing and then bastardize all the parts for different things rather than go and buy them all independently.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Ken's just asked about how the plate deflects over time. It hasn't at all because it's an aluminium plate, and I think it's got to be a 1/4 inch thick aluminium. And my router does pretty much live in there as well, so I've never seen any issues with that. But Jim Dockrell made a really interesting point in the chat. He said Britain went to war over the Falklands, pile of rocks from some sheep. But yes, they did. But the reason for that was actually for the penguins, because penguins are a very important ingredient in making a Guinness. If you boil them up, the white stuff floats.
Oh God!
So that's why.
And the chocolate is incredibly nice.
Yeah.
I still don't remember the whole politics. You guys would probably remember the politics behind that whole affair more than I do. But it wasn't actually the Falklands. Wasn't there a third country behind that? Was it Argentina or somebody that was actually behind that whole thing that was going on or something? And that's why Britain just kind of said, no, you're not doing that to us. Just back off.
Yeah, I think if you go back far enough, it belonged to somebody, and then we stole it off them, and then so we kept it, and then somebody else tried to steal it, and we said no, and then they backed off, and then I think one of the theories is that there was it was like lots happening in Argentina, so they thought we'll go and take this island back because we won't do nothing about it. It's miles away and there's nothing there, and the people that lived on the island went, no, I don't believe this is going to happen. I'm going to ring my parents, and they will be around here in a flash. And then basically they did.
Was that under Thatcher that happened?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay, yeah, okay. Because I mean, she didn't take any guff. That lady, she was pretty strong PM for you folks.
No. I tell you what, if she was the lady living next door to me as a kid, and I kicked my football over, I'd have been like, no, you can keep it. I'm not going around there and having that conversation. Or you'd be up really early one morning and climbing over the fence, just taking the chance. You wouldn't. Yeah.
You'd be evicted. Never mind anything else.
So she was a real get off my lawn personality, is basically what you're saying. Okay, I like it. Hey, whatever. She was strong. Well, gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I'm going to take off because I've got a few things I've got to do.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go as well.
All righty then. But just before everyone, I mean, you can go if you want, and all this. Ken's just said he's got a particular router in there. Yeah, I've got the same T11 router in there, which is 6.5 kilos, which I think is the same as the one that you're talking about with the Triton. Yeah, it's a heavy router, and I haven't had any issues with it, so just give it a go. Should be all right.
Well, I'm off. If anybody tuned into this and had expectations, then for these guys, I automatically apologize. It's just this just evolved into whatever it was going to evolve into. So rather than making a total fool of myself, I'm going to say goodbye. So you guys take care, and I'll talk to you later. All right.
All right. Catch you later, Chris. See you later.
Take it easy.
Anyone who actually is still listening is like, I probably won't bother with the next one after this.
Probably not.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks everyone for being with us. We're going to shoot off now, I think, because we're bored and we've got even less to say now. So I think we'll knock it on the head. So I'm going to say, yes, put the world to right, a bit of historical politics and all the rest of it. So we'll catch you all later. See you later,
guys.